Well, hello, and welcome everyone. It's been quite a day. What a amazing lineup of AI experts, and the sessions have been great. I hope you've all been enjoying it as much as I have. So right now we have a panel discussion, and we're coming in with some super hot speakers, of course, who have been with you for the day. I would like to say off the start that Ryan Lazanis is not going to be able to make it at the last minute and sends his regards. But we are going to discuss the key points from the 2025 State of the Workflow and Automation Report. And that was brought to you by Financial Sense. So I'm Kellie Parks. I'm a certified professional bookkeeper up here in Canada, and I'll be the moderator for today's session. I help cloud accounting pros systematize their firms' texts and workflows, and I'm thrilled to be part of this truly insightful panel. I want to welcome our panelists, and I'm going to start with Chad Davis. So, Chad, we have an amazingly international lineup here. It's really quite something. So, Chad is from Canada, and he is the co-founder of liveca.ca, which is a CPA firm up here. And he has a community group called Automation Town, which I highly recommend you join. It's one of the most interesting groups out there. And if you have an interest in AI and automation, that is the community group to be in. So, Chad, say hi.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
Next up, we have Ed Axe. And Ed, you just told me you are from Sao Paulo, Brazil?
Yeah,
Yeah, very
correct.
cool. Okay. And Ed is a workflow optimization expert and the founder of Axe Automation. So thank you. Welcome. Say hello.
Hey everyone, very nice to be here.
Okay. Well, thanks for joining us. Next, we have Isaac from Opser.co. In keeping with the international theme, Isaac is out of the Dominican Republic and just recently met up with another friend of Chad's and mine, a fellow Canadian, Brian, who was down in Dominican, and they got to talk automation and AI live and in person at a resort in Dominican Republic. So that was fun. And Isaac is an
It
automation
was.
strategist, helping firms scale with low code tools. Say hi, Isaac.
Hello, everybody. Happy to be here.
Thanks for joining us. Next up, we have Jenna Rodriguez. She is the senior, easy for me to say, senior accountant at Pedante and Company Inc. She is out of Pennsylvania, so live and in person from the States. And Jenna, say hello.
Hello, everyone. Glad to be here.
Thanks for joining us. And then we have Michelle Gordon, who we just heard from. She just did the session a few minutes ago, an AI expert and CEO at Fiscal Eye, and a fellow Canadian out of a place that, and it's all about Kelly, so I'm going to go on. A place I love, Squamish, BC, which is a terrible name, but an absolutely gorgeous area. The climbing and the hiking there is spectacular, and it is part of what's called the Sea to Sky Highway between Vancouver and Whistler. If you ever get a chance to do that drive, I highly recommend you do. Hi, Michelle.
Hey, just don't do it on like a holiday Monday or Friday.
Oh, no, right? No, painful, man. But is that not the most beautiful drive?
It is.
Yeah. So, welcome. Thank you for joining us. And I am super looking forward to hearing your insights onto the questions that I'm about to ask you. And so, this panel is special because of who everybody here is, and because it's built on real world data. Over 800 firms, firm owners, and admins shared their biggest workflow challenges, automation wins, and tech frustrations in the Financial Sense 2025 State of Workflow and Automation Report. The conversation isn't just theory, it's backed by data and live experience. So, over half the firms said in the 2025 State of Automation said their workflows still need improvement, even with automation tools in place. And that is a reminder that software alone does not fix broken processes. Oh man, who lets me loose doing these things? We need strategy, leadership, and sometimes the courage to let go of old ways. I actually have a saying that I've trademarked, and it is change is hard, not changing will be harder. So, over the next 40 minutes, we'll explore some defining moments that triggered change, how firms are actually using automation, where AI fits into all of this, and then we'll discuss client resistance, internal adoption struggles. The struggles are real. I'm sure a lot of you are on the adoption struggle bus, and what the future of workflow really looks like. So let's start in with the big question. Why is workflow still the number one challenge? The report found that workflow inefficiencies, including communication delays and admin overload, remain the top issue that firms face. Why do you think that this challenge persists despite all of the available tools? So I'm going to turn to you, Ed. What's getting in the way of real progress for firm owners?
Yeah, I would say first, as you mentioned, is not easy to change, especially as this is typically a big change from doing everything manually on the spreadsheets to leveraging all the different AI and automation tools out there. So it's sometimes it can be scary, I'd say. The second one would be like lack of time, as like they are so focused on all the manual and repetitive tasks that they have to go through every single day. Like they sometimes don't have the time to hit pause, to stop, to understand the processes, and then try to build those workflows leveraging all these different platforms. And also I would say like the third one being there are so many tools out there that sometimes it's hard for them to understand what is the best option for them. So like if you think about automation tools, like before you just had Zapier, now you have 10 different options. When it comes to AI assistants, you have 10, 15 different options. So sometimes it's just hard to understand what is the best tech stack for you to start using it and building all these workflows. And because of that, you just kind of you don't do anything basically. You just keep doing the way that you are doing, leveraging spreadsheets. So I think those are the top three reasons from my understanding.
Yeah, overwhelm. Getting started is the thing that's stopping everybody, right?
Yeah.
And total segue here. Chad did a video last week, I believe it was, on what the different LLMs did. So he tested, I think it was almost the exact same prompt for all of them, right, Chad? And then you went through that. We saw the differences in how they reacted. So that was pretty cool. So even playing with them. So Jenna, what does that challenge look like inside a working firm?
So Ed pretty much hit all of our pain points. I'm a self-professed late adopter for sure. I like to work, let a lot of the kinks resolve, let other people be the testers, and also the hesitancy, just the time commitment, just to set up, learn, and train staff on a new product. So it is really hard to pull that trigger, especially in a smaller firm, because usually the lead people that's generating the work and the money are the hat wearers for those decision makers and possibly setup people. So it is very difficult to pull that trigger, and definitely the unwillingness of the short-term pain for the long-term benefit. But we did eventually actually jump on board due to looking at firm transition in ownership. So we have an owner stepping down. So we needed to fill in those gaps and save a lot of the admin time, or we would need to add staff. So we did step into, and we're overwhelmed with all the choices.
Right.
But we did finally settle on one, and we jumped in 2 feet. And we are so glad that we did it. We got through our second busy season with an actual workflow product with automations. And it was tremendously helpful for us. And also I believe that a lot of the mid and smaller firms The decision makers may not see the value in investing in available technology, just for, not to be an ageist, but just those normal processes have been so embedded for so long. It is difficult to change. So just encouraging I literally convinced the firm owner by counting the inter-office emails that were sent during a tax season.
Interesting. I like
When
your
work was
approach.
ready, this is ready for review. The client docs came in, and just
Right.
the inter-office conversations that needed to happen versus using technologies to alert the next person in the workflow. Literally just the minute that you take typing every one of those emails for every single employee in the staff essentially paid for the software and then some.
Jenna,
Before
that
we
was an
even did
amazing,
anything else.
that's so unique. I've never heard really that approach, and it was great because a lot of these firm owners, they want, because they're accountants and bookkeepers, they want KPIs and ROIs and all of the three-letter acronyms, when really a lot of this is a leap of faith, and you just have to know that it's going to make things better, right? So
And you pick
that
a
was
very
like, if I
simple
usually
piece.
have a bell, it'd be like ding, 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 great answer. Just count the emails. Or have AI count the emails for you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So the document collection bottleneck, 64% of firms said chasing clients for documents was their biggest workflow issue. Anybody surprised by this? That's just shocking, right? More admin work. Why is this still such a pain point? And how can automation or client behavior shift it? And so, Michelle, I'm going to turn to you. What's one automation that helps streamline your document collection?
Well, first, I think we need to address the true problem. The thing is, it's not an automation tool problem. It's a people problem. So it's a behavior modification problem. So if you attended my talk, it was all about change management. It wasn't strictly against AI. It's about people. So how do we change the behavior? People change when A, it's financially beneficial to them, and B, if it's easy. So by making these automation tools, it's great to be sending them copious amounts of emails. They probably said it to ignore. So how are you going to make it easier to collect their data? How do you make it easier for them to just drag and drop the data in that you asked for? So speaking from experience, where I had to I have multiple clients go in and I'm trying to help them through an audit, and I have to find a login, and then it sends a code somewhere. Oh shit, whose email did that go to? Then I need to go and find the code that then got sent to be able to upload the document. So it's ease of use. You can use any automation tool you want, but if it's not easy for them to use, then it's not going to work.
Yeah, true. And you're right. It's a people problem. I have another saying, and that is make it easy so it gets done. And Chad, what tips can you share that have reduced document delays at Live CA?
First off, thanks for being here, everybody. It is nice to see your names in the chats and all the cat gifts. This is fun. This is a big panel. Just keep me busy. I like this. To be helpful, I know in panels it's really hard to go deep, but I'll say this. I had no idea what Michelle was going to say, and she kind of took what I was going to say. So I'll think of something on the fly here. I think the tips relate to data organization. So we had a major problem years ago, and it was that we didn't standardize the types of documents we needed for all of our business clients. And we had it in a list, but it wasn't tied back to the original sale process. So during the sales process, you get some of it, but you might not get all of it. And then maybe your process was to send a form or for them to fill out something, and it just felt disjointed. So what we ended up doing was we centralized the entire sales process to gather as much information as we possibly could. And then anything that we were missing turned into a list. And that list is then what was automatically generated to then be requested from the customer. And I think that was really cool for us because now we can see for any new customer coming on board, plus existing customers that need things, what is it that they need and how are they actually getting it? So I've seen some companies use Content Snare for that. Some people use Financial Sense. Some people use the tax collection tools. it doesn't really matter what you're using as long as it fits with your workflow. And I think that's what's really nice about like integrating all this stuff with your sales process or with your existing things, because the more it's integrated, the less times you have to actually touch it. And again, the tools you'll always switch from time to time, but being able to train the people throughout the sales process that you will be using these tools is also a huge unlock. Because if you just surprise them after they've signed their contract and now there's this entire new process they have to go through, that's rough. But if throughout the whole thing you're saying you're going to get this thing, here's what it's going to look like, you've screen shared with them, they actually know what they're going to be dealing with. We've almost had like very, very little pushback on document requests. And like nothing ever goes more than a week or two because there's just so much talking about it. And it's only asking for the data that we actually need, not the whole thing.
Oh, good. So you're not over asking, but you are over educating.
I think it's overeducating. Yeah. I think we are asking for a lot of information, but we've also not fully relied on automation. And just like Michelle said, it's a little bit of a human problem. So for years, we used to like have an onboarding call. Now we only do onboarding admin calls to get document data if they haven't responded or haven't figured it out in like 2 weeks. But our onboarding call with our CPA is typically the first time they get to speak to somebody because the admin part is so organized now. So we were able to cut out an entire call, which saved a whole bunch of time.
Nice. Very nice. Good. I'm going to throw in, I know this, I'm not supposed to be answering any questions, but you know, it's all about Kelly. I have a client welcome guide, and we walk through it. It's part of our onboarding process. We educate heavy at the beginning so that it goes smoother later on. And we have a client welcome guide, and it tells them the how, what's, and where's of all of our technology that we're going to share with them. And then in that guide are links for, so things like simple things like connecting the QBO bank feed, because we have our clients do that. There's a help link on how to do it so that they can either refer back to it. We also have a text snippet for it, but just making sure that you can empower them to know what you're doing and make them feel confident makes such a difference, right? So I'm going to stop taking over, maybe. So the third topic that we're going to get to is workflow and work-life balance. Yike, that's a tough one, right? So the report revealed that poor workflows are impacting mental health, and firm owners are taking work home. I would say some of their employees as well, losing sleep and feeling constant stress. So have you seen this in your own journey or with your clients, and what's the fix? I want to go to Jenna. How does automation help reclaim peace of mind?
So what I've seen personally, it definitely has saved many headaches. That whole second guessing thing. Did we respond to the client? What is the status of that project? Are things getting done? Did we follow up maybe with a new lead client? Just the whole existence of something that you have to set up once, touch it once, and then it reminds you of all the other steps has saved us significant worry and concern. I had several instances through work and projects and client emails running in the back of my mind, kind of like as you're walking out the door and you're second guessing, do I have my phone? Do I have my keys? Did I do this? And you ask yourself that 3 times before you can walk out the door. That is the feeling of lack of workflow existence. So it definitely solves a lot of the anxiety related to keeping up with clients, keeping up with projects, and meeting deadlines.
Okay, great. Thanks, Jenna. Michelle, any wellness related gains you've seen from proper systems?
Yes, definitely. So had a recent client who their systems were a complete mess, and I went and helped them set it up. And when I first started with them, the one manager she was like coming in at 4:00 in the morning because she's like, if I'm awake and I can't sleep, I might as well just go to the office and get paid to be here. Right. So she's not sleeping. She doesn't have time to participate in dance, which she loves to do. And other employees, as a result of it, are also seeing like mental health issues. And so setting up systems for them, she got back into dance. She's now able to show up at work at a reasonable time. She's not waking up at like, 2:00 in the morning and be like, oh, did we remember to do that? And her AR clerk, she feels empowered. She's like, look, I'm able to use these systems. I made sure this works. I know that we're collecting. I'm able, when I call one of our customers, I know that I'm actually asking them for the money that they actually owe us versus, asking for something that we thought we weren't paid for, but we actually were. So again, less embarrassment. And so definitely saw just the change in the staff. Amazing.
Oh, great. Okay. Well, it's always nice to hear a success story, right? Okay, so we're on to question 4. From spreadsheets to software. So 27% of firms still manage workflows in spreadsheets, even though many express interest in automation. Why do you think they're stuck, and how can they break through that fear of change? So I'm going to turn to you, Isaac. What's your advice for firms stuck between spreadsheets and automation?
Great question. I'll say this: I have some mixed feelings with spreadsheets because I definitely feel like they can be a good starting point, right? For some processes that are still young, for a firm that's just getting started, that's what you're used to. Very flexible tool. So by all means, it could be a good starting point for certain people. But for workflow management, that's a core function that you want to grow, and you want a team behind you to manage that eventually. So it can be challenging. Part of what I like people's getting started with spreadsheets at some point though too, it's like the data set is there. So you might already have your list of clients, your list of tasks. You might have some other logic and the things you want to see in a system eventually, right? You might have over time realize, hey, we added a column for the work status and the column for this other thing. So it makes the transition and the migration to an eventual system much easier, I think. So, but in terms of my advice, I think fear vanishes with action. So to the extent that you can play with the tools available, put your data in, see what it looks like, see how you like it, see what you like, what you don't like, you start to realize that it isn't really a scary monster after all, and just take small steps in that direction.
Okay.
So that would be my advice.
I think one of the things that I've heard from you, and I'm going to use a different word though, is also decide what the outcomes you're looking for are, so that you have, you know which way you're running with the ball at least, right? And I think I've heard you talk about trying to figure out like what's the end result here.
Of course, kind of clarify the outcome so that if after the implementation it was successful or not. And I know there's a couple questions we might answer later around like what that looks like and what's that measure of success, but definitely that's also the fair point.
I'm going to give a plug to spreadsheets as well. I'm not anti-spreadsheet. And one of the interesting things to do is to build your workflows in a spreadsheet, because you can actually copy and paste them in super fast into Financial Sense. So sometimes it helps us to get the base workflows built where we're not confounded by the technology. And, spreadsheets are underrated, but we don't want to spend 5 hours a week, which I believe is an average amount that I've seen, on implementing what people are doing next by copying a spreadsheet and assigning it to somebody. So Ed, any small step strategies that have helped clients move off of spreadsheets?
Yeah, it's like if you're gonna use a spreadsheet, at least use a cloud-based version like Google Sheets, because then it'll be a lot easier for you to use it as a bridge to your first automation or to your first integration that you're gonna do, right? So my recommendation would be to use your spreadsheet, start creating your first integrations. You can leverage tools like Zapier, Make, and then and some other ones, so you can connect your spreadsheet with platforms like Financial Sense, platforms like QuickBooks. So you can start building your first workflows still using your spreadsheets, right? And that will become easier for you to do the transition to a fully, let's say, cloud-based or a fully automated workflow. And then, like, I would say, you start with just one project or just one client. Don't try to change everything at once, because again, if you are just using spreadsheets to then move everything into a platform is not an easy lift. So you can start just by testing it out with one project. Then you see all the benefits of it. You see that it's not that hard, and then you can start migrating all the other projects and clients into the new platform that you're starting to use.
Okay, great. Thank you, Ed. Appreciate it. Okay, so automation and hiring readiness. Many firms only realized they needed automation when they started hiring or losing track of tasks. What's your advice for firms trying to scale without breaking their workflows? I just want to say I'm kicking it old school with paper because I'm traveling. I wasn't sure how it was going to work out with less monitor real estate. So this is kind of fun. So Chad, what systems should be in place before a firm hires? That's a big question.
Well, before you hire, it's just you. So it's a very personal question, because if it was me, I'd probably over systemize it because of the nerdiness, but then it would be ineffective and I just have a really bad business. What systems need to be in place? Well, here's the thing. I chat with a lot of companies like in the accounting space that are just wondering what to do to prep up for AI and for work. And the best versions of prep that I've ever seen is that they know the service that they're selling, and they recognize that this will never be finished. Like, we're 13 years into our company, and I don't even feel like we're 40% organized at where we should be. And I feel like that mindset is pretty important because everything can be improved. It's just at what level should you? So using tools that already exist off the shelf are great for that. And I know we're here at a financial sense conference, and like there's so much inside of financial sense that you can use. It fixes a lot of the problems that a lot of solo people have. And forgive me, didn't I see something somewhere where there was a deal for solo firms on financial sense? Did I see that years ago, or is it still around?
No, it's true. That's maybe I think it's even less than a year that that's been out. But yeah, there's a solo plan so that you can get the hang of it.
Right.
And then once you start bringing on team members, you've already got your processes baked into the software,
Yeah.
and you
So
can just expand on it from there.
so back to that point of like knowing what services you want to work through. A lot of solo people that haven't been like working in their company for very long, they're still experimenting with like what they want to sell. Like not necessarily what niche they're in, but like, do I want to do any 1040s? Do I want to do just corporate tax returns? Do I want to do audits? Like, they're figuring that kind of stuff out. So even just keeping a list of an organized like work that you want to do is a step in the right direction, because it doesn't take very much effort these days to turn those checklists and those lists of things that you offer into some pretty decent checklists that you can turn into a tool later. So what we have our team doing, like, we've got a lot of checklists for a lot of jobs, but one of the core things that we have in place is that every team member is expected to bring up issues if they see it inside of a job. So if you change that back to the question for the owner, like what can they do? It's literally write down as much as you humanly can, and then just recognize that it'll never be at 100%. And the person that comes on board with you next is there to help improve it. And it just keeps improving, improving, improving. But don't act like it's perfect. I think when you do, you overpromise to people that you're so organized. And that's really like rough.
Yeah. Yeah, good point. I want to throw in when you talk about it not being perfect too. One of the things I did when I was bringing on my bookkeeper was I videoed myself doing the work. I wanted that anyways because I want to empower my clients that if something were to happen to me, they at least know what's going on. I videoed it, and I saw so many holes. Videos reveal a lot. But you can take that video and you can have it transcribed, and then you can turn it into a list as well, right? But you're
You
right, you
can.
gotta decide what the heck you're doing before, like, what services are you gonna offer before you can build these things?
Like there's over 300 people in this room right now. And I don't know if anybody else has experienced this the same as me, but when we did videos, probably like 4 or 5 years ago, like right before COVID, that's 5 years ago, the the amount of people that didn't watch the videos was astounding, right? They would watch the first few minutes, they would skim through, they'd try to find their stuff, but then the videos became a hindrance to actually getting the work done. So like in theory it works and it's great. Maybe it does when you're smaller, but like at that point we just kind of gave up on videos. We went back to written because people can scan the written really quickly. And when it's in like the checklist inside of the project management system, there's
Yeah.
just very distinct things. Like I feel like that has more impact than the videos because like somebody mentioned earlier, like we're all human, like we just want it to be easy. Maybe that was you.
Yeah, no, I couldn't live without the checklists either. I'm just saying they surface a lot of things to start creating those checklists and see where the holes are. But no, you got to have the checklist. You got to address all of the learning types, right? But checklists are so visible because then we all know what's happened as well. I agree. And so, Michelle, how can AI support growing teams without creating chaos?
Well, I think you've addressed many of the points. I think it's important to think about how, again, starting with one thing. What's one thing that we want to tackle? It's not everything. Thinking about where is your information being stored. So if we're using, say, you use Gemini a lot, and so we want your Google-based organization, well, then we want to start storing our information on Google, right? And we want to make sure that we can utilize what we already have, that is stored in one common database, and that, like, I built team playbooks in Google. So again, who has access to it? Is it digestible? Can we utilize AI to put it in different formats? For example, let's say somebody learns better by reading, or somebody learns better by like going through flashcards. How do they want to digest the information, and making sure that it's that in that format? Do we need it done in a different language, for example?
Mm,
Right? So utilizing AI for that.
yeah, great point on the languages too, right? Okay, so let's go to number 7. That's feature focus. What actually matters? And so, according to the report, this is the Financial Sense State of Automation and Workflow report. Um, the most wanted automation features are dashboards, client reminders, and portals. If you had to prioritize one of these for a small firm, where should they start? And we're back to you, Chad. What's had the biggest impact for Live CA? And what are you hearing from people in Automation Town, your community group? What's going to have the biggest impact? Dashboards, reminders, or portals?
Neither, none of those.
None.
I
Okay.
don't think any of those are what people are asking for, except for accountants, which is really funny. For us, it was the number one request in Automation Town is onboarding. People want to make sure that it is automated as possible. But once you realize that like your sales process has to change and the way your data is organized has to change for it to actually onboard pretty well and automate from there, cool. I think you can do small little steps of onboarding, but the whole thing, I mean, I've rarely seen a firm do the entire thing. I've met a couple, but it requires a lot of data centralization and a lot of automations and a lot of like the correct tools that can talk to each other in order to make that happen. So yeah, none. I'm actually curious what other people might think of that.
Okay. Interesting answer. Okay.
Mhm.
Okay, Jenna, which one has helped your team the most with real-time work? So that's dashboards, reminders, or portals, or none?
So for us, given those choices, I did lean toward client reminders, client tasks, because that whole document collection aspect of busy season for us, and fielding and putting out lists of questions and follow-up questions to clients. The client reminders are very helpful because you're not wondering if you followed up. You're trying to remember which clients you did or didn't, how long it has been, and keeping clients on task. So those automated reminders are very helpful. That basically it's a set it and forget it. You're working on that client, you work through, here's the missing items, here's the questions I have. You set up the client tasks and the reminders just go. And then you're moving on to your next project. So you do not have to reflect back to that prior client, and you actually are able to work through the projects more seamlessly because you're not going back periodically to follow up and send reminders if they are automated. So it has been very helpful. But secondly, the dashboards, knowing where the work is and what the status is helpful. But I'd say client reminders have taken a lot of secondary work off of our plate and increased the smoothness of the project work.
Okay, great. Thank you. I just want to do a quick reminder. Please don't sell your product in the chat unless you have cleared it with the Financial Sense team first. And don't click on links in the chat that haven't been vetted by Financial Sense. Just trying to get that out there. So measuring success. What does good look like? 66.1, I want to know who the 0.1 is. 66.1% of firms say they measure workflow success based on how smoothly the systems run, not just revenue or speed. And so how do you measure whether automation is working? Michelle, I'm going to go back to you. What metrics or signals tells you a firm is thriving?
Cool. Well, I definitely think, fewer items overdue is definitely helping with that. But then again, we're going to go back to the human side. Do we have confidence? Does your staff have confidence? And going back to my example I said earlier about the AR person having confidence, knowing that she's doing her job, knowing that it's being done correctly, knowing that when she does something, it's for the right reason. So having your employees have the information that they need at their fingertips. And you can also measure this by less sick time. Has your sick time decreased, right? Because employees are less stressed. Are you getting less angry phone calls from clients because you have the right information or you're contacting them for the right reasons? I definitely think those are definitely measures you can use.
Oh, I like those. Sometimes top line revenue, I mean, we're in the accounting profession. We all realize that top line revenue can be a bit of a vanity metric. I like some of the other ones that you gave us. Thank you. And so Isaac, how do your clients define and track workflow health?
Defining success, we kind of touched on this earlier, but I think the way we've defined it over time and the way we've educated our clients, and we've seen that they kind of agree with, it's effectively a function of efficiency, speed, and quality, really. So efficiency, so like how fast do we do it in terms of like the budgeted time and the time it actually takes when we sit down. Speed is like how quickly we deliver it, and quality is really probably the one that alludes more to that aspect of systems running smoothly that you've mentioned, which is like how often does something go wrong? That's really how I would define something going smoothly is the fewer mistakes or the fewer errors happen in the system. So to Michelle's point, escalations, client calls, are we having to do the work again? Are there errors happening time and time again that maybe are leading to client dissatisfaction or clients leaving? So that's how we define it. How can we do it faster? How can we do it quicker? How can we do it with fewer mistakes? And that's kind of like efficiency, speed, and quality. That's how we define a healthy workflow.
Okay, great. Thanks, Isaac. I like that there is your books have been getting some love. The books in the background.
Yeah.
I listen to Traction on audio. I mostly read hardcover books, but I listened to Traction on audio, and it was a fascinating listen as well. But yeah, they were getting some love in the chat there. Okay, time savings before automation versus after automation. So before automation, over half the firms spent 5+ hours. This is where I got that stat earlier. 5+ hours per week just scheduling and assigning work. After automation, 75.8% now do it in under 5. That's a big shift. What area of your work or your client's work saw the most dramatic time savings? So, Ed, we're going to go to you. What time saving results stood out most to you in your recent projects?
I just want to start by saying that I couldn't agree more with Chad related to client onboarding. Like that's probably one of the most common process that we automate for accounting firms because it's so time consuming. You have to connect to so many different platforms and tax stack. And for me, that's the where like the low hanging fruit is, because if you spend like 4 or 5 hours onboarding every new client, it's going to be very hard for you to grow and to scale your firm. So that's for me where you can start saving a lot of time. And I would say like if you want to focus on one process, if you want to start automating one process, I'll definitely focus on client onboarding. And once we automate client onboarding process, then you can, of course, it depends on how many clients are you onboarding per month, but you can save 10, 20 hours a month easily once you start connecting every tool and once you start automating every step that you have to go through to properly onboard that new client.
Okay, great. Thanks, Ed. Isaac, any surprising areas where automation saved hours? Something you
Yeah.
just didn't see coming? Boy, that's such a jump in.
You know what?
Every time you smile, Isaac, it brings a smile to people's faces. You have the greatest smile.
I appreciate that. I think the lighting is helping me a little bit too. I'll say this. I think it's really one big thing that does the surprising. I think what's surprising to me sometimes how the small things add up, right? There are things that are done frequently and sometimes for many, many clients that once you look at it and you've automated one step at a time over the course of months, then you see, oh my God, this has had a big impact. Actually, one of our most recent case studies that's actually on our YouTube channel is actually an Automation Town community member too. It's a bookkeeping firm and they have about 50, 60 clients, and it was taking them 2 hours to close their books for each client. We were able to take that from 2 hours to about 10 to 15 minutes over the course of 9 months. And it was not like this gigantic one thing. It's just like, hey, we have this 20, 25 step checklist, and let's just go one at a time. Because it really adds up. If you think about, something you do monthly for 60 people, you have like 720 opportunities a year. So that even if it's saving you 10, 15 minutes for each one, it's really worth doing. And even in the tax prep world, which we have some clients that are heavy tax, it's so easy to justify an automation that's going to save you like 5 minutes if they're doing like 1,000 returns a year. And we've had clients that have 3,000 returns, right? So even like a 3-minute improvement, something's worth evaluating. So I'll say that it's not really a gigantic, massive thing you're going to do. It's really more about, hey, let's stack these smaller wins over time.
Cool. Yeah, what a great point. So it's those little things that just keep adding up. So great point. Okay. Last question. So we might even make it in time. What should firms automate fast and first? So let's close with a practical question. For a firm just starting to automate, what's the very first process you tell them to tackle and why? And so this is a quick fire round and we have 2 minutes. So I'm going to go in the order of what I see. So first thing to automate, what is it going to be? Isaac?
Tracking work, I'd say.
Pardon me?
I would say tracking work.
Tracking
you have
work.
a system to track your work. Yeah, the work that needs to be done.
Okay, great. And I just want to go, Shauna said text expander. Yeah, look up text expanders for sure. Okay, Chad, what's the first thing to automate?
I think there's 2 opportunities that are really easy. One is related to your sales process, depending on what you're using for your sales engagement letters. having that notify and update a whole bunch of different places is a really easy win, just to kind of think through the logic of how to use these like middleware tools like Zapier and Make, or integrations with project management systems. But the one that like most people are playing around with first is the idea of meeting transcripts, and then having those, like, as soon as a meeting transcript ends, it automatically does a whole bunch of stuff and sends information a whole bunch of different places, and extracts a whole bunch of information from marketing, and just a lot of people talking about that right now. I think it's, as Zoolander would say, it's like hot right now.
That's so hot right now. Okay, Michelle, and I'm glad to see Text Expanders getting the love in the chat. Michelle?
Cool. I'm going to say education is the first thing that you can automate. Being able to run an agent that can provide education, so you can have a conversational, ask a question. You have a junior employee that needs to ask a question about a policy in your company, or a CRA question. If you have something that they can ask, therefore they're not taking up somebody else's time.
Okay, great one. Okay, Ed?
Yeah, going back to the point that I made about client onboarding, I'd start automating first the welcome email that you're sending out to your clients with a list of next steps and all the documents that you need from the client. Just that first step related to the client onboarding can start saving a lot of time for sure.
Sure, dripping the questions out to them. Yeah, good one. Michelle? Oh, wait, it moved around. I'm sorry. So Jenna, off to you.
Yep, I would lean toward the higher volume, small task. So what do you spend the most short periods of time on, and work to eliminate that through automation? That way you have the biggest bang for the initial process, but it's very simplified approach as a first step. And once you see the benefit, then you're more interested in further automating other items.
Oh, okay, great idea. So thank you. Well, thank you to our incredible panel. Chad, Ed, Isaac, Jenna, Michelle. I really appreciate your insights here. If there's one thing that we've learned today, it's that automation alone won't save your firm. Systems will. Sing it, say it. And when those systems are clear, structured, and supported by the right tools, the results are transformative. You can download the 2025 State of Workflow and Automation report at Financial Sense. You don't hesitate to reach out to our panelists. They're not just talking about change, they're building it daily. So thanks again for joining us, and enjoy the rest of the summit. Thank you. Thanks, everybody.